On today's episode, I'm going to tell you why Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate went from wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 1 in our post-NFL draft rankings.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I'm Damian Parson. That's Keith Sanchez. And today's episode has been brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. On today's episode, it is post-2026 NFL Draft coverage. We are ranking our top 10 wide receivers based on their landing spot, like where these guys landed. Now it's not really all – it's about talent, but it's also about, hey, who's your quarterback? Who's your play caller? How do you fit with this team? So we're going to talk about wide receivers 8 through 10 who made our list, wide receivers 4 through 7. But we're going to kick this thing off with our big three. Keith, I'm going to name my top 3. And if there's any changes, you name your top 3. Let's have that discussion. Keith, for me at number 1, I have Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State, going to the Tennessee Titans. And number 2, I have Jordyn Tyson out of Arizona State, who went to New Orleans Saints. And number 3, I have Concepcion, Texas A&M wide receiver, who went to the Cleveland Browns. Who's your top 3 right now, Keith?
Yeah, DP, we have totally different top 3s, totally different approaches and totally different angles. I went with somebody that got drafted, I believe, in the 3rd round. As far as landing spot, I went with Antonio Williams. And so I went Antonio Williams 1, I went Makai Lemon 2, and then I went Ted Hurst 3.
Let's talk about it.
All because of situations, right? I looked at the Antonio Williams situation. The Commanders are in dire need for another playmaker outside of Terry McLaurin, right? Antonio Williams going into this football season, talking about this past football season, was a top tier wide receiver, right? So I'm expecting those skills to translate to the NFL and him to kind of play a 1B role to Terry McLaurin with the Washington Commanders, but more importantly with Jaden Daniels, right? With Jaden Daniels feeding him the football. And number 2, I battled back and forth, but I went Makai Lemon. Those who listen to the podcast, they know not in love with Makai Lemon, but I like Makai Lemon. But him having a role, right, with the Philadelphia Eagles. And if you look at Jalen Hurts' numbers thrown to AJ Brown, if you ask AJ Brown, they're probably the worst numbers in the world. If you look at it, pretty doggone good numbers, right? So if he just slides in and fills a role, he should be fairly productive. And then number 3, I went Ted Hurst because something that's not discussed about, and I thought about it too with the San Francisco 49ers, and make sure I have this right. Mike Evans is with the San Francisco 49ers now. And I thought about that with the 49ers with their draft plan. You know, they got De'Zhaun Stribling, but everybody was like, man, why weren't they more aggressive? But I feel like a lot of people forget that they got Mike Evans, right? Like they went and got him. And so obviously, that hole, I feel like Mike Evans is there to fill that. I mean, I feel like Ted Hurst is there to fill that Mike Evans void. And then also, who's the quarterback? Baker Mayfield. Proven guy. He's going to feed the young guys. He fed everybody last year. So I think Ted Hurst falls into a good situation.
No, those are very definitely good picks. And 2, I'll say this, 2 of the 3 that you named are actually on my list. One of them made the honorable mention because I was like, do I get them onto the field early?
Yeah.
But for me, Keith, you know, like I said, going back to my list, I like your list. I kept my same top 3 pre-draft, just in a different order. And for me, I look at Carnell Tate, the draft capital. It took him at 4. You have Eli Ayomana from last year, Shamir DK from last year. Both were round 4 draft picks. And Eli Ayomana showed that he could play in this league as an X receiver. I think he had over 500 yards in the offense that was very disjointed, out of structure. You know, you fired the head coach, and there's just so much stuff that went on for Tennessee last year. And now you go in and him and you start to see a little bit of a rapport between him and Cam Ward start to blossom and develop last year. And all 3 of them were rookies. Shamir DK a rookie, the quarterback a rookie, and the other receiver a rookie. So it's all rookies getting used to the same speed of the game in the NFL at the same exact time. Not one being, hey, I'm 2 years into this thing, let me help you get acclimated. They're just looking at each other like, man, it's like the blind leading the blind, and they're trying to cross the road right now. You know what I mean? So it's just that type of growing pains you got to deal with. I think with Tate coming in, now there's a misnomer out there that Tate should be the X receiver. I vehemently disagree with that. Tate's 6'2", about $190, maybe 195, right? We don't really know what his playing weight actually is. Tate's not suited to play the true X role. Let Eli Manor play that spot. You brought Wan'Dale Robinson in, play Tate as the Z, where that goes back to my comp, bigger Devonta Smith. I think that makes a ton of sense of playing them at the Z spot, where number one, you're not facing every team's number one wide receiver. Now, again, as we talked about, Keith, you're not going to be able to hide from the tandem over there in Houston. Because you flip one side, you go to Kamari Lassiter. The other side, you got Derek Stingley. It's like, hey, God bless, brother. Get in where you fit in. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. But I think he's got the chance to be the guy that leads this team in targets and receptions because of the draft capital, talented wide receiver. And honestly, from a skill set standpoint, he does kind of help mold everything together. You got your quick twitch slot receiver in Wan'Dale Robinson, your big power X receiver in Eli Manor. The guy that can take the top off the defense is Shamir DK, and he can come in and be a role-specific guy. So I felt like that's where I wanted to put him. Tyson, I think Tyson comes in immediately as wide receiver 2 to Chris Olave. I don't think there's a lot of discussion that needs to be had there. As long as he's healthy, he's the second wide receiver. But then when they go to 11 personnel, him and Olave can kind of mix in or kind of rotate in terms of, hey, who's playing X? I mean, who's playing Z, who's playing slot? And then you bring a Bryce Lance off the bench and let him kind of run that X receiver role. Let him be your pseudo Christian Watson, right? That role specific player. We want you to take the top off the defense. If Tyler Shuck likes what he sees and he gets that one-on-one, yeah, uncork that long bomb and trust Bryce Lance like Cole Payton did to run underneath the key. So that's why I have Jordyn Tyson there. To me, Casey Concepcion, I've been saying I'm super high on this young man's skill set. I think he's got a chance to walk into this wide receiver room and snatch that wide receiver 1 mantle from Jerry Jeudy, right? I know Cleveland Browns fans worried about the drops. This isn't like a Jerry Jeudy drop. Jerry Jeudy has been battling drops for years. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like the ball hits his hands and it just hits the ground. You're like, Jerry, what is happening with you right now? That's not the same thing with Casey Concepcion. Yes, there's some hand mechanic stuff you got to fix, but for me, Keith, I think he's got the chance to walk in here, even with Denzel Boston coming into this wide receiver room with him. I think Casey Concepcion is the most talented receiver that they have right now.
Yeah, and with the Cleveland Browns situation, him stepping in, I think it should be right away, right? Because even with Jerry Jeudy being there, I think NFL fans, Cleveland Brown fans, right, just remembering that, yeah, your receiver room still lacked a lot, right? Like you still wanted an injection of youth and talent into that room. So I'm right there with you. Back to the Jordyn Tyson point. I think it's going to be interesting to DP just to kind of see how the entire thing unfolds. I don't know if you agree or not. Just with the different roles, with Chris Olave being there, obviously being a veteran, another former first round pick, how where they situate them at, because Jordyn also plays some slot too, and does some different things. I think that's going to be interesting to see how that situation unfolds.
No, 100%. When you think about Carnell Tate being injected into this Tennessee Titans wide receiver room, what are your thoughts on that situation? Just overall, with him being 4th overall pick, first receiver off the board. Let me also break down another misnomer. There's this thought that, well, Brian Daboll took Malik Neighbors and peppered him with like 160 targets. So you expect the same thing for Carnell Tate.
DP.
Let me shut that down real quick. The reason why I don't believe that's going to happen, God, Malik Neighbors is so easy to get the football into his hands. I had Marv over Neighbors, right? But it's almost similar to Carnell Tate. Neither one of them are dynamic in terms of after the catch. Marv is more of a power player after the catch. Tate's not a power player or dynamic really like that after the catch. So it's like, all right, I already can't get you the schemed up throws, the screens, and different. The way that Daboll utilized Neighbors, you can line Neighbors anywhere. They had him in the backfield sometimes, and then we'll motion them out, get them matched up on the slot corner, on a safety, on a backer. It's like, oh, this is easy money for whoever's at quarterback. He's a guy that's just easy to feed the ball to. That's not Carnell Tate. It's going to be a specific style of usage of how you're going to get him the football, which is going to be more further down the field into the first and second level of the defense, rather than throwing a smoke screen, a wide receiver screen, bubble screen, whatever it is. Like, manufactured touches is not Carnell Tate's thing. Wide receiver reverse it. No, that's stuff that Neighbors can do. He's an explosive athlete. that stuff's not going to fly with Carnell Tate. I wanted to kind of dead some of that. I don't foresee 106 the same. No, like it's easier to get Neighbors the ball than it is to get a Carnell Tate.
Yeah, 100% with DP. I'll tell you this. I have Carnell Tate coming up on my list. So he did not make the top 3, but he's in this next batch of wide receivers. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and transition and have the conversation. How do I feel about Carnell Tate mixed in with the Tennessee Titans? And we can talk about a couple other wide receiver landing spots coming up next.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are here and in full swing, and every possession matters. If you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer to get you started. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. Turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. I like using FanDuel during the playoffs because everything I need is right there in one place. You can check stats, trends, and matchups before making your picks, which makes the whole experience feel a lot more informed. Plus, it's a really easy app to navigate, and it makes playoff basketball even more engaging from start to finish. Whether you're looking at player props or just following your favorite stars, it just adds another level of excitement, guys, to every single playoff game and matchup. Head to FanDuel.com today to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Before we break down wide receivers 4 through 7 in our post NFL draft rankings, don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club for ad-free episodes and access to our group chat via Discord with me, Keith, and other listeners of this show. Tap the link in the show notes or go to LockedOnNFLDraft.supercast.com to join. Keith at number 4 in my rankings, right? We're going 4 through 7. So at number 4, I have De'Zhaun Stribling, wide receiver out of Ole Miss, going to the San Francisco 49ers. At number 5, I have Makai Lemon out of USC, going to the Eagles. At number 6, I have Omar Cooper Jr., Indiana receiver, going to the New York Jets. And at number 7, I have Denzel Boston, the aforementioned Denzel Boston out of Washington, going to the Cleveland Browns. I have him as my wide receiver 7.
Yep, I'll go. At number 4, I have De'Zhaun Stribling going to the San Francisco 49ers. At number 5, I have Carnell Tate. At number 6, I have Jordyn Tyson. And then at number 7, I have Omar Cooper Jr. DP. The theme for my last ranking, right, was kind of landing spots, right? Quarterbacks, landing spots. This one, I kind of took more into the rookies, right? And your ability to step up and make plays in this part of my ranking. So De'Zhaun Stribling had him at 4. We all know the San Francisco 49ers I just talked about, right? Mike Evans not there, right? Mike Evans is there, so he's going to kind of be number 2. But the conversation with why am I blanking on receiver from Florida?
Ricky Pearsall.
Ricky Pearsall, yeah, I kept wanting to say Riley Cooper, and I knew that was I kept wanting to say Riley Cooper. I knew
totally different guys.
Yeah, different guy. Ricky Pearsall has yet to kind of get his feet, right? His feet up under him with the 49ers, right? Just trying to get his grip. So I think there's a real shot that De'Zhaun Stribling can come in and be that second option, especially we have to remember too, George Kittle is coming off a torn Achilles also, right? So
Brandon Ayuk going to be gone soon, eventually.
Yeah, right. And Brandon Ayuk is out the door, right? They couldn't get rid of him fast enough.
They just haven't gotten all his bags out yet. He's just sitting outside waiting on the Uber.
Yeah. So that's why I went to De'Zhaun Stribling. I think there's real opportunity, and plus what, keeping the theme, quarterback, right? Brock Purdy.
Let me jump in right there with the De'Zhaun Stribling thing, Keith. Jawan Jennings is a free agent, right? Like he's also no longer on the roster. So he's sitting there waiting for one of these teams before training camp to give him a contract because he wanted an extension with San Fran. San Fran didn't value him enough to give him the long-term extension. They gave him a little bit more money last year, and they let him walk into free agency to test the market, right? Well, he's still a free agent right now, and somebody's going to get a good player. But for me, I know a lot of people, don't get me wrong, I even feel like, man, Stribling was a little overdrafted. I had him as a third-round player.
I 100% agree with that notion. He was overdrafted.
He was overdrafted. You know what I mean? But one thing about Kyle Shanahan, he is a very big believer in his coaching ability. And I think about this with Ricky Pearsall, Keith. I know some people want to call him a bust. Ricky Pearsall, before he ever hit training camp, the man was injured because he got shot and robbed. You know what I mean? So he started off his career on the downside behind the 8 ball, and he's just battled some injuries. When he's on the field, Brock Purdy likes throwing the ball to him because he gets open. He's a good athlete, and he knows how to run routes. He's just got to stay healthy. But with De'Zhaun Stribling coming in, I think the way that you saw Kyle Shanahan utilize I just said his name, Jauan Jennings. Jauan Jennings is a big power slot because he's not a great athlete. He's a great blocker. He's big in the middle of the field for Brock Purdy, right? And again, it's the physicality he brings. Well, you look at De'Zhaun Stribling, he's what, 6'3", 210, sub 4'4", explosive athlete, big physical receiver who could play the X, the Z, and the slot, and he's an outstanding run blocker. I trust that Kyle Shanahan will be able to utilize him, and then you let him learn from a Mike Evans. I think people want to kill the pick, and I get it. Again, I had a 3rd-round grade on him. I didn't think he was going to be the first receiver on day 2 drafted, but I could see where Kyle Shanahan wants to utilize him, because also, even with the Ayuk stuff, he can win on the outside. And this is a guy that has the type of speed that if you want to throw the ball down the field, he has the speed to do so. So, again, I overdrafted, we both agree, but there's a clear a pathway for him to be a productive rookie in this Niners offense.
Yeah, 100%. And we've seen this offense. I guess the best way I can say it, the Shanahan McVay offense, do less with more, right? Cooper Kupp was a 4-6 wide receiver. Puka Nacua, I think, was a 4-5 wide receiver, right? So there's a certain style that you can win with, and you don't have to have elite measurables and athletic traits to be able to win in the system. Carnell Tate, you talked about it. I said I was going to give my notion on it real quick, DP. He came in at number 5 for me. My feeling, I'm nervous about this, DP. I'm nervous about this situation, and knowing the politics that goes into situations and them force feeding him being the number 1 guy. And then to your point, if you're making him the number 1 X wide receiver, he's going to have to face the number 1 corners. And I'm not sure if what I seen on film, Carnell Tate is going to get open against the number 1 guys. That's what I have concerns about. I think he's a guy that you're going to have to kick inside. He's going to have to be in stacked alignments. He's going to have to do bunch. He's going to have to do different things to where he's off the line of scrimmage and get him some of that free releases, free access, right? Give him a head start and then being able to get open. I hope that they draft him, and the notion is not for him to be the next Malik Neighbors, the next Justin Jefferson, right? And force feed him footballs and force feed him situations, but instead allow him to be part of this wide receiver group, right? But when you take a young man that high, that's usually not the case. You're going to force feed him and put him in situations. And honestly, when Elik Ayman went later in the draft, Chidike went later in the draft.
I think both from 4th round, matter of fact.
Yeah, I don't think they have a highly draft like Carnell Tate comes in by far the highest drafted guy, right? In that wide receiver core. So he kind of comes in as the number 1 guy, which I'm not 100% sure about that. So that's my take on the DP. I know we both have, I believe, Omar Cooper, right? In this bracket. I have Omar Cooper. I had Jordyn Tyson too in this situation, but I want to talk Omar Cooper because we didn't talk Omar Cooper.
Yeah, no, I think Omar Cooper's in a good spot, Keith. He gets to walk in, and it's crazy.
I was trying to be optimistic about it, right? Like, because I was like, like there's Gino and then there's Gino, right? And then I was like, all right, if he's going to Gino, then I feel good about it, right? So I was battling back and forth, like, because Omar Cooper Jr., he could have fell anywhere from like top 3 to like number 9, right? Then it was all depending on that's the situation.
Yeah, no, I mean, man, I look at it, I said, man, he walked into a good situation, because unlike you think about Carnell Tate, you got to come in with expectations to be the guy, right? Like if you have less than 1,000 yards, you know what I mean? Like, some people might be like, oh, well, it's the quarterback. Some people like, oh, it's Brian Daboll. Other people gonna be like, you didn't get enough done. Like, it just is what it is. Omar gets to walk in as the guy who's supposed to complement the number 1 in Garrett Wilson. So I like, and he's going to play the slot.
I just want to pause right there. That's why I kept trying to put Carnell Tate to the Giants, to the Cowboys. I always thought like when I see him, I see number 2. I see wide receiver 2. And the Titans, and I lean, kind of talked about it right pre-draft. I was like, I could see the Titans going wide receiver. I did not think they was going Carnell Tate. I didn't want him in that situation.
I text you right after. I text you the same night. I was like, you called it, because I never thought wide receiver was on the board for them. I was like, it's going to be a defender or Jeremiah Love, and that's that. And that goes back to we don't know anything come draft night, baby. Like anything, bound to happen. If Jeremiah Love was there, there's no chance Carnell Tate's selecting that
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, you're taking the blue chip guy, the elite guy. But I'm with you. I really like Tate. I've liked Tate all season, during the college football season. But my big thing was watching him. I'm like, okay, like, this isn't a JSN situation. Like, and some people try to, well, JSN wasn't the true wide receiver one. Guys, JSN put 300 yards up on, what was that? What team was that in the postseason? Was that Utah?
I want to say
Utah.
Yeah, I might be wrong.
Like,
yeah.
Bro, they did everything they possibly could to stop that man. And he had 300 bills receiving. Marv is on the field too, by the way, guys. Yeah. Marv is on the field. It didn't matter. Like, they got him the football, 300 yards. I think he broke a record. You know what I mean? In like the Rose Bowl or something like that. Whatever it was. I'm going to look up, make sure which team was it Oregon? It might have been Oregon. I don't know. But like, either way, like, we saw what he looked like when you unleash a guy like, JSN, right? And not just try and pitch a hole him as a slot receiver like people tried to do with him, right? The same thing with Makai Lemon. Makai Lemon started the season off hot as could be last year for the hamstrings. So I look at Tate, good player, but I look at him more of a 2, like a high-end 2 to a number 1. It's like, if that's what I get, if I'm getting, I'm great. But for a team like the Titans, you do need a 1. Can you manufacture that with him? We'll see. But Omar Cooper Jr. being able to walk in, learn from Garrett Wilson. You have Adonai Mitchell, who they were trying to really get, like, pull the talent and the potential out of him, put it on wax on field at the Z spot, right? And one thing we know about Geno, he's going to push the ball down the field. So I think he's going to give Adonai every chance he can get vertically to take the top off the defense and be a big body, big play threat. What does that leave? Omar Cooper to be that guy that can move the chains, be physical, play his role as he's developing in the NFL. I love that situation for him. And then real quick, Keith, you brought up Makai Lemon. He would have been higher for me, but I was like, you know what? Like, I put him in 5. He definitely could have been in the, it's still top 5. So this is what it is. But I was like, all right, I think the way he wins and how Jalen Hurts plays, Jalen Hurts does like to push the ball vertical. So I expect Devonta Smith to get a lot of run, as a new wide receiver 1 when that A.J. Brown trade goes through. Got Daltavian Wicks there. You have the 2 tight ends now with Stowers and Dallas Goedert. I want to see how quickly Hurts and Makai can get on the same page in terms of the part of the field where you expect Makai to live, which is between the numbers, like between the hashes, in the middle of the field, where that's not really been the biggest strength of Jalen Hurts' game. So seeing how comfortable he can get with getting the ball to a guy like Makai Lemon.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely going to be a transition and interesting because AJ Brown, 2 totally different body types, and how Makai Lemon wins is a totally different situation. But DP, let's do this, man. Let's do wide receivers 8 through 10. And there's still some names that have yet to be revealed, some high profile names. We're coming up next. We're going to talk wide receivers 8 through 10 in our 2026 post draft rankings.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network, number 1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. Wide receivers 8 through 10. At number 8, Keith, I have Georgia rookie wide receiver out of the University of Georgia wide receiver Zachariah Branch. He stayed in the state, went to the Atlanta Falcons. Zachariah Branch to the Falcons. I got him at 8. I have Antonio Williams at number 9. Clemson wide receiver going to the Washington Commanders. At number 10, I have Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame going to the New York Giants, Keith.
DP, I'll rattle off my last 3. I went Casey Concepcion at 8. I went Denzel Boston, his teammate, at 9. And I went Malachi Fields at 10. Also, let's go with I'll explain why I have Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston towards the back end of my rankings. While I like both of those guys, right, as far as top 5 wide receiver prospects, quarterback situation, I just 100% have no idea what's going to go on, right? Like every time you look on Twitter, there's some positive clip about Deshaun Watson. You still have Shedeur Sanders in the fold. You got Dylan Gabriel. They brought in Taylor Green, right? There's things all over the place. And so I just was like, you know what? I have to just rank them a little bit lower just because I don't know the situation, right? Like what is it going to look like? New head coach coming in there. Just a bunch of different things kind of mixed in the two. But obviously, as far as wide receiver prospects, I really like those guys. It's the Browns. it's the Cleveland Browns, right? Like that's where you have to go with it, right? Like they
It's
will,
fair. It's fair.
yeah, they'll find a way to mess this up. But Malachi Fields, DP, we both have him at 10. I want to get your take on that situation.
Yeah, man, I think when Malachi, he fell to a spot, like as we just talked about with Omar Cooper Jr. and what we wanted for Carnell Tate, he comes in as the complimentary guy. You look at this wide receiver core for the New York Giants. Of course, Malik Neighbors is the diamond there. He's coming off 22 years old, coming off of the ACL. They brought in Darnell Mooney. I think I talked about him. He's fast, but drop passes. Darius Slayton is 29 years, almost 30. Not a long-term option, but they did, I think, pay him. Brought in Calvin Austin III, right? Guy that can play that slot role, take the top off the defense. Isaiah Hodgins, Jalen Hyatt, Gunnar whatever his name is, Gunnar. Keith. He's more of a punt return anyway. He's like almost 30 years old. So Gunner's there. Somebody named Ryan Miller, Bo caught you talking about bringing in Malachi Fields. I think he steps in. Yeah, I think Slayton may start the season out as the X. I think Malachi has a chance to take that spot from him and work his way into being the starting X receiver. 6'4", 220 plus pounds, big catch radius, violent hand receiver. Guy is going to extend at the catch point. He's a good run blocker. First and second level, being able to run routes with quickness and suddenness for his size. And again, he's going to get favorable matchups because he's the opposite of a healthy Malik Neighbors. And I think that also Jackson Dart is an aggressive passer. So I think he's going to a quarterback that will actually utilize that catch radius, the back shoulder fade, the 50-50 ball, and give his guy a chance. Because you know that Jackson Dart, not careless, he just doesn't care in that sense of like, and I like that about him. Like, he is an aggressive thrower that if he sees what he wants, he's going to give you a shot. And wide receivers love guys that give them a chance. So I think Malachi Fields could be a nice playmaker for this offense.
Yeah, I think the Giants are probably going to need 3 or 4 Malachi Fields. Just, you know, how Jackson Doyle play from time to time, just launching that thing up there and seeing what happens. He is the if you're a wide receiver, right, you don't mind it because he's going to give you a chance, right? He's not going to say, okay, one-on-one, he's covered. He's still going to give you a shot to go get it. So that's why I like Malachi Fields in that situation. Like I said, being a number 2, Darius Slayton is there. I think, and I wouldn't be surprised too if they try to move Malachi Fields to that power slot role from time to time and just, you know, give Jackson Dart a big middle of the field option to throw the football to while Malik Neighbors is working the X or something like that. So he's going to give them various different options. I like the situation. Malachi Fields.
I want to jump to Zachariah Branch real quick, man. And
interesting, yeah, because I looked at him, but he didn't make my cut. Yep.
I love the landing spot for him going to Atlanta. Number 1, you got Jahan Dotson there, who I like coming out of Penn State. Still think he's a talented guy that can run routes and get open, but he's probably more of a true slot, right? Maybe he can move him at Z, but we'll see. It's this receiving core, just pure receiving core, is Drake London. You do have Olamide Zaccheaus, who was good for them last year and everything. They brought him back. Kyle Pitts, they got to get that man. He's 25 years old. He's fully healthy now. You saw what it looked like when he was fully healthy last year. Get him a long-term extension. Be happy with that and go about it at the tight end spot. I think Zachariah Branch can step into this offense. And I think, and in camp, if I'm Kevin Stefanski, my wide receiver 3 situation, because I think Zaccheaus is a 2, my wide receiver 3 is going to be between Jahan Dotson and Zachariah Branch. It's not Casey Washington, not Devin Tompkins, not Dylan Drummond or Chris Blair. It's those 2. And think about this, Keith. We don't know when we'll see Michael Penix as the starting quarterback because he's coming off of another ACL tear. Who's the guy that they brought in? Tua Tagovailoa. What is he accustomed to throwing to? Jalen Waddle, Malik Washington, Tyreek Hill. That type physical archetype of receiver, like a Zachariah Branch, I 100% think that Zachariah Branch can have a nice impact in this offense as a rookie. And if I'm Kevin Stefanski, I want him to beat out Jahan Dotson because I want him on the field. That speed, that explosiveness, mixing in some of the stuff we saw. The pre-snap motion that Mike McDaniels would run with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and those boys, and they kind of they get that forward momentum without a penalty, and they get to run full speed or close to full speed on deep flat-footed DBs upfield. Yeah, I'm doing those type of things with Zachariah Branch, man. We know the team's going to try and take away Drake London. they have to deal with. You got no choice but to deal with Bijan. Bijan's always there. You got no choice. So you got to factor in how are we going to stop the run? How do we double team wide receiver one? And well, if I come out in 11 personnel, 10 personnel, I know for a fact I got a guy like Zachariah Branch on the field that could take a 5-yard hitch and take it 60 yards because he has that type of explosiveness.
Yep, I agree. If they incorporate this right, DP, he can be he's the right team that needs one of those type of wide receivers, right? Like not every team needs to start with a gadget guy, but this is a team that's missing a gadget guy. And he can definitely have a role. Real quick, DP, honorable mention. I had Skylar Bell, right, going to the Buffalo Bills, then rounding out the Carnell Tate conversation real quick. We kind of been hitting on it throughout the entire show. Forgot they signed Wan'Dale Robinson, DP. They went and got Wan'Dale Robinson, and then also Calvin Ridley. They think he was injured last year, he's coming back, supposed to be healthy. So there's a lot going on, and I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. In order for this to work, they're probably gonna have to offload some wide receivers. So, the Titans taking Carnell Tate at 4 would turn out to be a very.
I will say the Calvin Ridley thing might be a blessing in disguise from a tutor standpoint, because Calvin Ridley was a 4.4 athlete. But he wasn't a big, powerful guy, but he was super productive, opposite of a Julio Jones. The route running aspect. He's a route running technician, savant. That's his game. Being able to help a Carnell Tate in that situation. Hey, how do you handle these different looks and everything else? And leverage is going to be a big thing.
Well,
Keith, I throw out Ted Hurst real quick. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, and what I was going to say was the only thing and that's why I say they may have to offload somebody, is because a lot of those guys, in my opinion, Calvin really wants to be a number 1, right? And it's certain guys I think that he would take a back seat to, but I don't know if it's going to be a rookie, right? At this point in his career. Yeah. Then the other part is you have a lot of those guys, like you said, the Chimere, DK, the Elick, Ayamaner. Those guys are trying to fight to get paid, right? Like, so they're going to want more target share too and be in a situation. I don't think they're necessarily trying to get bumped down the depth chart, right? So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting.
No, 100%, Keith. I put Ted Hurst as my honorable mention. Only reason why, again, I had him as a 2nd-round pick. He was in my top 10 original rankings. The thing that worries me with him is more so how quickly will he get on the field. That's my main thing. Because once you got Chris Godwin come back, you expect him to be fully healthy. Mecca Ibuka, right? And then you got our boy Jalen McMillan there as well, that they have that rapport with Baker Mayfield. Like, you know what? We may not have a traditional X, but we could do some stuff that the McVays and the Shanahans do of the motion, the crossers, and we could scheme it up to where these guys don't have to worry about being the number 1 X as we slowly creep along and develop behind the scenes of Ted Hurst, because I think he's the future at the X position for him. Just as a rookie post-draft, I'm like, he may not see the snap share, the snap amount, the snap share that you want for him to be the biggest impact, but I think long-term he's the answer at that spot.
Yep, for sure. Well, DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to see, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube. Wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On Monday's show, guys, we are bringing you, it's Mock Draft Monday again, just with the 2027 spin. We did a way too early 2027 mock draft over at Bleach Report. Me and Keith are going to sit down and go through some of the names, introduce you to some of the names that you need to know before we get to summer scouting in June. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.